I'm absolutely thrilled to be talking to Nigel Plaskitt. Now, Nigel holds a very special place for me because when I was very tiny, there was a series called The Pipkins, which was an early puppet series on lunchtimes on television when I was very tiny, I hasten to add. You're on here because of Avenue Q. First of all, explain what Avenue Q is to those that don't know.
Avenue Q is a musical show. It's a parody of Sesame Street, and it takes the characters, similar to the characters in Sesame Street. It's not actually the characters in Sesame Street, similar to the characters, and takes them on to the next stage where they've left the street, they've grown up, and they've gone out into the adult world. Essentially, that's briefly what it is. But it's not a show for children.
Okay, and this is because it's a show for adults.
It's risque, shall I say, yes. It's if anything, it's risque, I think, is probably what I would say.
Okay, well, we'll talk more about the puppets and what you're doing here in a moment. But I mean, going back to that 70s series when I was very tiny, the next thing I knew you for really was turning up on Spitting Image. I know you've done lots of other things,
Yeah.
but how did you get involved with Spitting Image?
Well, it was a 3-year gap where I tried to do some production, and I did do some production. I worked for Yorkshire Television a bit. But then I decided that that's not what I wanted to do. You know, it was one of those moments in life where you make decisions that take you off in another direction. And at that time, I heard they were looking for someone to replace a couple of people in the second series of Spitting Image. And so I did know the production team because, curiously enough, they were some of the same production team that had worked on Pipkins.
Right.
It's the same company. So I did know people, and then I got in touch with them. They were desperate for someone who knew what they were doing. I pretended I did, and I got the job, and I was there for 13 years.
We'll get more up to date now. You've done lots of different things. You've been in Doctor Who, etc. But I want to talk about Avenue Q. Now, this is, as we've said, a adult puppet show, but it's a puppet show which is done very, very well. It's won some pretty major awards. It's been on the West End. What can you say about it without giving too much away of what we're going to see? It's on the island, so if we come and see it, what do we see?
Well, as I said, it's a parody of Sesame Street. It is taking the characters into their adult lives, and they go on, but they still have this learning curve that you're supposed to have in Sesame Street. So they're all learning all the time. So
adult things.
Yes, adult things, exactly. So for example, Trekkie Monster learns about men. Princeton sort of learns about women. Trekkie Monster, I'm not giving too much away, learns to be generous. There's a learning process goes through the whole show. But it's a very funny show, and you will laugh. I've seen it at least 250 times, so I would have killed myself by now if it wasn't funny. It's a very, very funny show. You have to see it to really understand what it's going to be.
Do you know the island? Have you been here before?
I came here 3 years ago when they did it before.
Right.
It was the only time I'd been here, and we did take a little time to stay afterwards. And at that point, I did a workshop with the cast, and I think it's more or less the same cast that I'm going to see tonight. I did a workshop with them. I trained them to use the puppets in a particular way.
And obviously you still have a massive passion for this.
I just do love working, and I love doing this. I love now at my advanced years, I suppose, it's great to be able to pass things on, and that's what I'm doing a lot of now. I started with Q when it came over in 2005, in actual fact. It started in 6, but when Cameron Mackintosh brought it over, I went in and started to train the actors there. I did that. I stayed with the show for 5 years, and I've been really with it ever since because it stayed for 4.5 years in the West End, and then it went on tour for 2 years, and it's been coming back on tour several times. And in the meantime, there's lots of amateur companies that have asked me to do training sessions as well, and that's what I do.
Well, fantastic. It's an absolute thrill to meet you. You are a cult figure. You're a very, very nice man, and I'm honoured very much to have the chance to chat to you. Come and see the show. You'll love it. Avenue Q. There are some very, very good people involved in it. It's a lot of fun. It's a grown-up thing. It's won loads of awards. Don't miss it. It's on the island at the moment. Thank you very much indeed. It's an absolute joy to talk to you, Nigel.
Thank you. You will laugh.
I'm sure.